Now recording. So again, I want to welcome everybody. Thanks for spending part of your Friday with us. We are excited to have some colleagues from MS-ISAC here with us today. A little bit of background on KanREN. For those of you that are members, we're glad you're with us. And we also appreciate those of you that are joining us for the first time. We have about 10 folks that have signed up to participate today for the first time with one of our webinars. So thank you for being here. KanREN is the State Research and Education Network. We've been around for 26 years now. And we are the only organization of its kind in Kansas. And we serve community anchor institutions. So our MO is to work on connectivity and networking for our members. And these are some of the opportunities that we bring to our membership, really as more of a public service than anything else, and to make sure that our members and our potential members are informed of things that are happening in our space. We have, as an organization, been providing cybersecurity threat briefings for the last several years now. And this year, we've mixed it up a little bit and done things like DNS security filtering and now have the opportunity to work with the MS-ISAC team to share their work and their resources that hopefully you all will find immensely helpful in the effort to better secure our institutions. So again, I want to thank you for joining us for this session. I will have everyone mute if you could, please. If you need to ask a question, feel free to do that. Just hit your unmute, and we can also take questions through the chat window. So feel free to send any messages to us. You can send it to everyone or simply to me. And I am Melinda Stanley. I don't think I said that, but feel free to use those channels. And we are going to be posting the session once we wrap this on our YouTube channel, and that is at the KanREN. So we hope you will check that out and feel free to share it. Should you have other topics that you'd like for us to address in the future, please feel free to email those to me, and we'll be glad to look at how we can help with that. So I will turn it over to the MS-ISAC team. We have Eugene Kipniss and Greta from MS-ISAC, who will be sharing some of their services and resources. And again, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for hosting us. We're always glad to talk to education organizations and public entities throughout the country about all the cybersecurity challenges that are facing them. But today we have the nice distinction of being able to talk about things that can help you with cybersecurity. It's everything from technical services that are available to anybody or only to local government or state or public education, all the way to tons of public goods and resources that are educational in nature and can help you, say, educate your users or your own staff on cybersecurity. And with that, hold on, let me make sure I've got the correct PC share here. There we go. Had to get the slides in.
Looking good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So first I figured I'd give a little bit of a brief overview of who we are. So I do apologize for the alphabet soup. We're federally funded to provide cybersecurity services, and federal funding comes with the caveat that I need to use as many acronyms and abbreviations in an hour as I can fit. So if I go over one and I don't mention what it means, feel free to ask us. We've got a lot of them to throw at you. The first is MS-ISAC, or Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. That's our organization. We're a program underneath a bigger nonprofit called the Center for Internet Security. So a little brief on what Center for Internet Security is. CIS is a nonprofit committed to confidence in the connected world. They do that through two main vehicles. One, consensus-based guidelines on how to securely configure popular software like Windows 10. What's a good set of configurations to make Windows 10 more secure? Comes out of the box set up for connectivity and ease of use and functionality. How are some ways that we can change the settings on those systems to make them as a baseline a little bit more locked down? Then the other side of the house in CIS is our top 20 controls. The CIS Secure Suite contains that as well. The 20 controls, you just download it online. It is a document of 20 policy level controls that you can implement in your organization to better secure yourselves, like taking an inventory of authorized software and hardware, controlled use of administrative privileges, running pen tests, etc. Whole big thing for you to roadmap out your cybersecurity maturity model after and give you a path forward for the future. So our portion, the MS-ISAC itself, is focused on supporting state, local, tribal, and territorial governments. We have a number of resources that are available publicly to people that are in, say, private schools and institutions that are not public in nature. We'll be kind of splitting this presentation into two pieces in that way. Things for everybody and things that are a little more restricted towards the public sector. Don't fret, though. We have a lot of both categories. And by no means is this an exhaustive list. It's just what we thought we could probably fit in an hour without droning on too long. So I always like to kick things off with why should we care about cybersecurity? I remember back to my childhood. My father is an aging IT director and a webmaster and web designer, so he spent his whole life telling me all the things I shouldn't do on a computer. Don't play that Flash game online on that weird website. Don't click these links. They're suspicious. And as a kid wanting to play video games all the time on my little PC, I was constantly thinking, wow, this is kind of a bummer. Everything's so restricted. Now the paranoia has hit me, or the realization that my father was right the whole time. Connectivity does bring with it a lot of challenges. There's a lot of risks and vulnerabilities that exist in our systems and in how we use them. And so cybersecurity really is, as the feds like to say, a shared responsibility. We all use devices for work and for fun. We conduct our own personal family business using them. So for an example, like you do your online banking, that's pretty sensitive. You do it all from the devices you hold in your hand or in your home office as well. So thinking about all those things and my growing paranoia as a security professional, I'm realizing that things are only getting a little bit more precarious. So one of the examples I like to talk about a lot is spear phishing. So back in the late 90s, all those Nigerian princes and international scammers that wrote bad English emails and got people to send them $10 million, they retired because they made so much money. They did really well for themselves. Now there's a whole new crop of spear phishing campaigns, cyber threat actors who are extremely targeted and really competent at how they target people and choose their targets as well. So as an example, we have on this slide here some example emails that are basically people singling out employees and governments and saying, hey, we met at this party, take a look at this photo gallery that I put up online. The links might be off by one. We call it typo squatting. They might register a domain or get a site and a link set up that is one character off from what you expect. They might even ask you to download something or bring you to a website that looks exactly like something you expect to log into, but we call it an evil twin. It's actually created by cyber threat actors to convince you that, hey, oh, this looks like Amazon. I guess I should log in because they said I have a package coming. Well, it was a malicious email and you just entered your login credentials to Amazon on, a fake website. So that's the danger of phishing. It actually goes far deeper than that, like people's entire organization's W-2s getting compromised. Hope it never happens to any of you because that's quite the nightmare. The other thing to care about that we really like to zero in on is just basic mistakes and lack lack of knowledge at the end user level. We never would want to say that end users are completely deficient in this knowledge. It's just more that it's our responsibility as IT and security professionals to make sure we educate people. People that are educated in cybersecurity and the basics of, securing your devices both physically and from a networking and use perspective, they're going to have a better quality of life in that they probably won't have as many identity theft occurrences as other people. So these things do trickle down from not just workplace security, but down to personal use and personal activity. So here's a couple examples of just mistakes people make. Upper left-hand side here is actually a router for a business network in a supermarket near me in Albany, New York. This supermarket IT director decided that he didn't want to have to climb a ladder because I guess he wanted to appease maybe OSHA, but instead he took a label maker out and put the admin password and username to log into the network right up there on the router itself. So you can get in and administrate that device as just an average shopper. You might even have faster Wi-Fi than the public stuff they give you. Bottom right side, unfortunately, this was in Baltimore International Airport. One of my colleagues snapped this photo when she saw a gentleman working on his business email and all his domain login programs. He was already set up on his laptop and everything logged in. And he left his computer with no timeout, no lock on the screen. Everything was just open with no screensaver even. It was just the screen was brightly running with his corporate email and other accounts open. And he left it for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, multiple times in the middle of an airport to go get margaritas. So, just using a little bit of common sense can go a long way in cybersecurity. We want to help everyone learn that common sense because, this to me is a whole different level, to be honest, though, because that's a $1,500 laptop someone could just walk away with. But aside from that, getting that common sense into everyone's minds, making this kind of like a general discussion on what cybersecurity can be for everybody is a really important thing to us. So, and then here's a really famous example that I like to use a lot. This is Prince William of the United Kingdom. He's seated there in the background, and he's really excited about his first day on one of his assignments for the Royal Air Force. This was one of the most retweeted, I believe, or shared pictures on social media for about 3 days. And as a result, millions of people saw this. Unfortunately, in the background, this is the login credentials written on a piece of paper and posted on the wall for the Royal Air Force installation's radar system. So it's a big breach of operational security. It's kind of a national defense issue. They tried to take the photo down and mitigate the damage, but 5 minutes on the internet with personal or sensitive information is like a million years in real life. So a bit of a blunder, didn't work out so great. He kept his job though, he's royalty. So first I'd like to start off with how can we be better? How can we leverage some resources to get this information to the users? How can we better ourselves technically? And so I've compiled a list of resources that anybody can utilize. Our group, the MS-ISAC, actually provides advisories on known vulnerabilities in software products on the basis that they're released or made known to us. And we let people know these as long as they have, as long as they're a criticality level where they allow for remote code execution or escalation of privileges on an account. These things are going to really possibly lead to a severe compromise if they're exploited. We'll let you know if they're being used in the wild by cyber threat actors already, and we will tag it to the MITRE Corporation Critical Vulnerability Enumeration, or CVE, which includes a bunch of information on how the vulnerability works, what it is. And we also give recommendations on how to fix this. A key thing here, it's just good cyber hygiene to patch, to change things, make sure everything's up to date. So if you keep on top of it by reading the advisories, it can really have a great impact. Another free thing that anyone can use is our monthly newsletter. Cybersecurity education and awareness programs are popping up in a lot of organizations. You don't need to just buy a product or like a training program for people. You can get started by dipping your toes in, by distributing things that are of interest to people. So what I like to recommend is me and my education and awareness working group at the MS-ISAC write this so that you can shamelessly steal it. You can actually take this document, say it's from the desk of you, take the top header and banner and change the color to your organization's colors and put your own logo on it and make it seem like we never wrote it. Go ahead and do it. That's why we make it. This is all things that can be done and understood by an end user. It's written in plain language. If you send this out to them to educate them on staying safe online while shopping, avoiding W-2 and tax season scams, being safe while you're traveling from a cybersecurity perspective, they'll learn a lot from this if they take the time to read it. They're only a page and a half long, so it's not a big commitment. We try to bullet out recommendations where we can, so it's easy. I know a guy in Florida implemented this, and he called me and told me that he was put up for an award for distributing this with his name on it. I'm so proud. I want to see you all get that. I want to see you guys getting this information out there and hopefully winning your own awards for cybersecurity education. And then with that, we also give you materials that are for distribution physically. If this one is a set of online digital files you can download to print physically to give to your organization's employees, these are posters and calendars that cover topics like being a good digital citizen, being safe online, not sharing information too readily online. And you can take these and give them out as much as you want. All you have to do is print them. They come in pretty standard size formats as well. These are created from artwork nationwide that we have a contest for, and it's only kindergarten through 12th grade students in the US that participate in this. And private and public schools do participate. So actually, being that most of the people here are school representatives most likely, I challenge you all to have some classes participate in this contest next year. Now, a little more on the education side for your technical staff. Federal Virtual Training Environment, or FedVTE, this is open to anybody who is an employee of a state, local, tribal, or territorial government entity of any kind, or any veteran of our armed services. So it is a little more restrictive than anybody can use it, but it is not just limited to public schools. So if you fall into any of those categories, you can get over 800 hours of free online training coursework on demand for a lot of different certifications in cybersecurity. You don't get the certification itself from taking these. That does unfortunately cost money usually from the certifying authority, but a lot of the coursework and prep people put into those can cost a lot of money. So this actually saves quite a bit. Now this anybody can use, anybody in the country. The bulk order from the FTC is great for educating your technical staff and your end users. Remember how I said you could print our materials out and distribute them? They'll actually print it for you and send it to you. It's the Federal Trade Commission's site on printed materials that cover teaching people about fraud and how to avoid it. Unfortunately, a lot of cybercrime really is just leveraging digital means to commit fraud. So a lot of that stuff that you would teach an end user that isn't a technical control for cybersecurity, that can be educated on by teaching people about cyber fraud, essentially. And so they do have a lot of content on this site. You can order it in bulk. It's actually even offered in several languages. There's more languages than I can count on one hand, but I do know they cover at least Spanish and French and et cetera as well, the very common ones. So if you do have a bilingual population, you can distribute in that as well. If you take a look at this website, this link up here on the top bring you right there. You can get this content like identity theft recovery, avoiding identity theft. You can do kids being safe online, all these different topics. And then another great resource for end user training is Stay Safe Online. StaySafeOnline.org is the National Cybersecurity Alliance. We're a big fan of them. They're a partner organization with us. They're a national level nonprofit that works very closely with the Department of Homeland Security to better everyone's cyber knowledge at that basic non-technical level as well. They have tons of tip sheets. They have resources for your teachers and for your parents to educate their children. And there's also resources for businesses to spread information, much like our newsletter. So I recommend giving this website a very thorough look. They do a lot of timely campaigns, different times of the year that are really interesting. They had one that was cat themed and was really popular a few months ago about patching. It was called Patch Meow, Patch Right Now. And that was a huge success. Got people thinking about patching nationwide for about 3 weeks. And then they actually host a special website called lockdownyourlogin.org. That's done through Stop Think Connect and National Cybersecurity Alliance together. So that's the federal and the nonprofit. This is all based on how to secure your personal accounts. And that's a huge deal for a lot of people. Many online businesses and banks and such may offer things like multi-factor authentication. where you would need, say, a code, a phone call, or some other means of authenticating that it's you, aside from a password. They may offer that, but it may not come as a standard. Like I know that Google offers it for their suite. Facebook offers it as an example in many cases for their products. So learning how to implement this on your accounts, learning how to set strong passwords and how to keep your account secure is a real cornerstone of personal cybersecurity for a consumer or an end user. So I recommend checking this out. They have a lot of great resources there as well. And then this one is for any education institute. So the reason I talk a lot about phishing is because we see these non-technical attacks killing us. These individuals are, these cyber criminals all over the country and the world are basically going out and preying on people's goodwill or their gullibility to click links and things like that. Unfortunately, one of them is a purchase order scam or a wire transfer scam. So whether they lift your bank account details digitally by stealing information using malware, or if perhaps someone volunteers that information because they've been socially engineered or convinced wrongly into doing it, you could see hundreds of thousands of dollars exiting your organization. A school district near me in my hometown upstate in Albany, New York, was actually affected by this a long time ago, and several $1 million were actually piped out of their organization through an international transfer. Fortunately, part of that was recovered. Recovering money from illicit wire transfers can be done if it meets certain criteria through a set of services called the Financial Fraud Kill Chain. The FBI offers this to anybody. What you would do is if you saw fraudulent transfers exiting your company or your organization, anyone can use this. You have to contact your local FBI regional office, which is great information to have on hand for dealing with cybercrime in general. And they'll work with you on not only stopping, but hopefully reversing that transfer and getting the funds to you. So if it's within the last 72 hours, that it's an international transfer and it's $50,000 or above, this set of resources can kick in for you very quickly if you contact the FBI. Keep this in your back pocket in case you need it. It happens to more people than many admit. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Greta Noble, to talk about some of the things that are a little more restricted towards only state, local, tribal, and territorial governments and public education entities.
All right. Thank you so much, Eugene. Thanks for the intro there. So as he mentioned, these are specific to the SLTT community. And when you become an MS-ISAC member, if you're eligible, we hope that you do decide to become a member. These are the types of groups that you would join a community with. So we can service K through 12 school districts, intermediate units. We find a lot of those in Pennsylvania and some other states. We also work with municipalities, public higher education, elections offices, because we do, as he mentioned, work with the elections infrastructure ISAC, and also your public utilities and different authorities as well. So how do you access becoming an MS-ISAC member? It's very easy. You go to our website. Here we have the link. And you fill out a very easy form. It's not a huge document where you have to read through 20 pages or so of legalese. It's basically your contact information, and then you just agree to a couple membership rules, I guess, that really involve how we share information that you will send to us and how we would share information that we send to you. We also can agree to not share any information from you at all. So those different membership agreements will go through those parameters. The MS-ISAC stakeholder team, you'll get a whole team that'll help you walk through everything. We'll help you register for your HISN account, which is the Homeland Security Information Network, which is a secure site through the Department of Homeland Security. We also will help you submit public IPs and domains for monitoring. We're going to touch on all of that in the next couple of slides. So again, very easy to sign up if you're interested and you are part of the state, local, tribal, and territorial governments that we just referenced. All right.
Well, and
oh yeah, go ahead. Natalie. Sorry.
another quick plug here is that membership in the MS-ISAC does not cost anything, and it never does. Like I mentioned earlier, we're federally funded to provide these services. We get what's called a cooperative agreement with the Department of Homeland Security to do these services and to provide resources to state and local governments. So you're never going to have a price tag for this. As you join, it's kind of a la carte. You take on the services that we mention many of the times. that are just opt-in and still cost nothing. Anytime you would have to share information with us, it would be on a voluntary basis.
Thank you, Eugene. That is one of our key points. So thank you for highlighting
Big on
that.
free, best
Yes,
price.
free. Everybody loves free. So now I'm going to take you through a couple of the various services that are available to you as an MS-ISAC member or a member of the SLTT community. And the first is our 24/7 Security Operations Center, or what we like to refer to as our SOC. They serve three main functions, which is basically to provide support to our members, as well as do analysis and monitoring of threats and vulnerabilities, and then to take all of that information and report out to our membership. What I'd really like to highlight about this slide is they are truly 24/7. If you ever have a question or experiencing an incident and you're not sure where to start, this is the number that you want to call. So if you're part of the SLTT community, please jot down this phone number in the blue box on the slide. It's 866-787-4722, and jot down that email as well. There's literally somebody here at 2 a.m., middle of the morning. So if you wake up maybe and are thinking, you know, something strange was going on with our network and I need to talk this through with somebody, you can call someone in the SOC and one of our analysts will take care of you. Moving on to the next slide, part of the SOC, one of the teams within the SOC is the Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT. These are the individuals who are actually going to help you with incident response. So if you are experiencing some sort of malware or ransomware, what have you, these are the folks that are going to help you. They're incredibly intelligent. They do this 24/7, and typically they can help you address the issue and give you advice on how to remediate the issue right over the phone. We do have a flyaway team for certain instances where it's too big, unfortunately, and it needs to be handled in person. With that, we just have to get leadership approval and we can send our team out to assist you. Again, I want to highlight that this is a free, no-cost service for all SLTT public entities. So even if you decide that maybe you're not ready to sign up with the MS-ISAC today, although you should, I do want to say that even if you're experiencing an incident, you're not a member, or you hear from your friend in a neighboring state who's dealing with an incident in a different school district or a town or county, they can call this number, again, down in that lower right corner. They can call this number and we can assist them. Because as Eugene hinted, we were designated by the Department of Homeland Security to be the key resource for cybersecurity needs for the SLTT community. And we also, one more thing about CERT, sorry to highlight, they also provide digital forensics, which can be very interesting when you have your patient zero. If you send a digital image, they can go through and do an analysis and send out a report and let you know how your network was affected by malware or ransomware, etc. Getting into some more of our services, we provide free monitoring of your IP range and domain space. So this is for any sort of public-facing IPs and domains. On the IP side, what we're looking for here is basically, we're going to let you know of any signs of compromise or any sort of malicious activity. It's a very easy service to sign up for when you become a member of the MS-ISAC. All you have to do is send your information to our SOC, and they, in a simple email or Excel form, what have you, and they will track all of this information for you. We do frequently party with other third-party vendors or the federal government, etc., who will also help monitor, and if they alert us that any of our member IPs are connecting to any known bad sites, they're going to let us know so that we can tell you. For instance, we work with Spamhaus, and Spamhaus is a sinkhole hosting company where if we see that any of our member IPs are connecting to one of those sinkhole websites, we obviously know that something malicious is going on, and we're going to alert you that this is occurring so that you can then go remedy the situation. On the domain side, what we're looking for here, when you send in your domains and subdomains, we're trying to figure out if maybe your credentials have been stolen and maybe dumped out on the public-facing internet. Obviously, you don't want that. So we would alert you at any time if we see a .gov, .edu, anything that's a public-facing entity where their domain and credentials have been compromised. For instance, we work with Pastebin, and for those of you that are technical on the phone call today, this is a legitimate site that's frequently used by coders and developers, But we've also found out through our intel that threat actors like to dump credentials on this website. So we are frequently monitoring this website so that we can catch that information so that you can then go fix the problem. Digging more into the IP and domain space, we also have our vulnerability management program. They run two different profilers. The first is the web profiler. This is a very non-invasive touch of your website where we're collecting basic information, something that you could find honestly just by Googling someone's website. We look for your server type and version, or maybe your content management system. And the ultimate goal here is to let you know what's up to date and what's out of date. If all your systems are up to date, we're going to give you that virtual high five and say, great job, you're patched, you're good to go, you should be more secure. More importantly, we're going to let you know when you're not up to date, and we're going to provide information so that you have the patches so that you can therefore move forward and be better, more safe, and more secure with your cybersecurity. Also included are those CVEs for the technical folks in the room. The other program that we have is our port profiler. Our port profiler connects to 12 common ports on your public IPs, and we're basically trying to get a better look at your exposure. So this is where we're curious, maybe you have an open service that's running on a publicly facing asset, and you don't want that. For instance, maybe you have a printer that you don't know that's publicly accessible. We will look at that port, let you know that that's occurring. Because this, we're looking at your port, you may see a source IP address that we list here on this slide, visiting your various ports. That's us. We let you know that so you're not wondering if it's somebody else or some threat actor that's trying to get into your system. These reports are sent out quarterly, so we do try to give you some time to remedy the situation if you need. Another great service that we have is our malicious code analysis platform. This is our MCAP program, and if you become a member, I think this is one of the best things. I actually use it personally, but it's a self-service, a self-executing service where you can actually submit and analyze suspicious files in a sandbox environment. So maybe you have a URL that you want to go to, but you're thinking it's a little suspicious or something might be wrong with it. In this sandbox environment, you can click on it, see what would happen if your computer actually visited that site, and then determine whether or not it's malicious. A lot of the times it is not safe for work. You want to make sure that you don't go to those sites. Same thing for any sort of attachment that somebody emails you. Again, you can upload this and analyze this in this sandbox environment and make sure that it is safe. Because you would be an MS-ISAC member, this is private only to MS-ISAC members, and therefore it's not open to the public. And another great thing is we have analysts that I mentioned earlier that work out of our SOC, and they will be a second set of eyes only if you ask them to be. So if you're curious about the results that you received on a specific document or executable, you can by all means click on that box, get the second set of eyes, second opinion from our team to make sure that we're all on the same page and make sure that we can help you out. All right, so now I'm going to talk about, we have a lot of services, but I want to talk about a couple of the emails and other products that you're going to receive from us when you sign up to be an MS-ISAC member. The first is a cyber alert, and these alerts do come out as needed, kind of similar to the advisories. But this is more along the lines of where we're hearing something that's going on across the US or territories. For instance, if there's a malicious email campaign that's targeting a specific sector, we're going to let you know that that's occurring and also give you some recommendations to avoid it actually hitting you. So whenever cyber alerts come out, it's definitely one of those documents in the email that you'll receive from us that you're going to want to open right away. And moving into our intel papers, so another team function that we have in our Security Operations Center is we have a large intel and analysis team. They do a lot of research, provide a lot of analysis, and then they put out a lot of products. Some of the products that I'll highlight here, we have our Situational Awareness Report. This is a really great monthly retrospective on the variety of threats and vulnerabilities that we've seen in the SLTT community. We also send out those cyber alerts, as I had mentioned. We have primers. What primers are is they are kind of take a deep dive into maybe a certain type of malware or some sort of situational report. And last but not least, for the election side, I know that isn't the focus here, but for our election side, we do send out specific quarterly reports as well that talk about that community and how it's being affected by certain threats and vulnerabilities. Another product that we have, or actually not a product, this is more of a program or service, but is the Nationwide Cybersecurity Review, or NCSR, another one of those acronyms that Eugene talked about. We just love them here. But the NCSR is our no cost annual self-assessment that's really designed to take a look at any gaps you may have, as well as where you're doing really well in your cybersecurity programs and posture. This is a great tool that you can look at year to year to kind of measure yourself and see where you need to grow or where you have excelled in the past year. It can also, because it's open to all state, local, and territorial governments, tribals as well, excuse me, you're able to look at how your peers are doing. It's anonymized, so you won't know exactly who it is, but it's all sector-based, and you'll be able to review yourself against them and just see where your standing is and really where you need to grow and better your cybersecurity posture. I'm gonna pass it back to Eugene to wrap it up with one of our most favorite events.
Yeah, so every year, for people who are members of our organization, they can actually attend at no cost for registration or tickets or anything. We do host an annual meeting of our members. And this year it's actually in Denver, Colorado. We move it around every time. Last year was New Orleans, the year before that, San Antonio, Texas. And this is a forum where K through 12 and regional education professionals also attend. We have a large amount of them within our group. And you can, as an example, share information about best practices that you have been implementing. If you're a presenter, or if you're an attendee, you'll be able to see others presenting on things that have worked for them from a cyber perspective, things that they've had challenges with, talking about like basically any practice that they have that they can share knowledge on. We see this also as just a great networking opportunity. So as our K through 12 and educational contingent grows among our membership, which is now making up about 15 to 20% of our members, I believe, we're starting to see more and more of them convening here and using this as a forum to talk with each other. Again, no cost for a ticket if you're a member of the MS-ISAC. There's no registration cost at all for that event. And you basically just have to get there. Now, I always have to keep doing it. It's the Ghostbusters number. Who are you going to call? If you're a state, local, tribal, or territorial, or a public entity of any type, public education, you can call our SOC, our Security Operations Center, and get assistance with an incident. Keep this number on hand, and hopefully you don't have to use it for anything bad. But if you do, we're there to help. Again, all these things we talked about that are more privileged and only for state, local, tribal, and territorial or public entities, they are available at no cost. I would never present anything that's a sale here. This is our organization as a nonprofit here to serve your organizations. But everybody can take advantage of everything from that first half of the presentation. We hope everybody walks away with at least something they can implement, something that might help something they're doing, something that might inform them a little bit better. Because there's a lot out there. It's just such a battle to find it all. So with that, I will open things up for questions. You've got us for certainly some more time here. If you ever do want to reach out to us, we have included our personal contact info down here. Those phone numbers go right to our desks, so no person blocking you there. And info@msisac.org is also a good email address to reach out to. But again, Ghostbusters number, soc@cisecurity.org. If it's a 24-hour-a-day problem and you're a public entity, don't reach out to me. As much as I love everybody, at 3 a.m. I can't really help you with an incident. We have a team on call for that. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to all this. I really hope that you get something out of it and that you all go forth and educate your end users and educate your staff.
Thank you so much, you guys. I want to open the floor. If folks have questions, please feel free to unmute and ask. I can't believe you all are that shy.
Yeah, we can't bite. We're remote.
I know we threw a lot of information at you. There's got to be a question, anything that we can clarify, maybe?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
This is Gil Oliva with Heston College. And first, I want to thank you for your presentation and the information you shared with us today. Also, thank KanREN for providing such good content for all of us. My question is, this is Heston College, being a private institution, what would be our options here, being that, from what I understood, most of the material is for public institutions? Thank you.
So the whole first half of the presentation, all those resources you can absolutely take advantage of. There are a lot of options out there for you. There is an ISAC for educational organizations called the REN ISAC, or Research Education Network ISAC. You can leverage them if you'd like. We work in concert with all of the other sector ISACs as well. Ours is just unfortunately due to the federal mandate focused on only public entities. So if you can take away that first half of the presentation and get some useful end user training and things out of that, that's what you'll be able to leverage. And then other than that, unfortunately, there are a lot of other low cost options out there for like interactive training and things like that for end users. We're product and paid service agnostic here because we're federally funded, but there are a lot of our membership who are utilizing those products. And if you ever want to benchmark with somebody on what they're doing for, say, cybersecurity education or technical stuff, you could reach out to us, and we'd be glad to connect you to some of our public university members that work with us and are willing to chat about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eugene. We have a couple questions that I'd like to relay from the chat. The first one from Jason Simon is, do you do analysis on a suspicious email that just looks almost legitimate, but you can't tell?
We do it in person. We do it one-on-one too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So aside from that, like self-service platform, we do actually have like a suspicious email, I guess inbox is what I call it, where you can send it in, and our computer emergency response team will take a look at it and analyze the whole email, not just the attachment or the URL. So we're always glad to help out with that where we can, but that would have to be done by sending it to our inbox. I don't have the address with me right here, but if you get in contact with me, I'd be glad to get it to you.
So a follow-up on that, Eugene, would they need to be a member before they could do that, or is that just part of a public service?
For our like email analysis, it generally would need to be anyone who's in the public sector, but I'm sure like on a one-off basis we could be possibly able to help with a private college as an example, with like an email analysis. There's also anyone who is, by the way, a non-public institution that kind of wants a similar capability, but in a different form for doing the manual or the personal analysis of a suspicious attachment or URL, things like that. There are free services out there on the web. I believe VirusTotal is one of them that's very popular. We opted to create our own platform that's private for our membership, so people couldn't see our submissions globally. However, there are more public outlets for you to do analysis and have things run in Sandbox.
Thank you. There's another question from Mark Price. I'm asking if you would discuss Albert.
Yeah, sure. So Albert is a federal, well, for some, what it is, it started as a federally funded program for the state governments to get 2 IDS or intrusion detection system sensors placed on the state networks. And basically how that works is the Albert device is a sensor that does not sit in line with your network, and it basically will fire off if a signature is met for malicious traffic, as an example. We would be notified at our security operations center because we will fully monitor and manage the device 24 hours a day with human eyes on glass doing the analysis to omit any false positives that we can. Albert is unfortunately not extended at the federal funding for education institutions or K through 12s. Anyone who is a public entity can basically pay for the service on a cost recovery for how much it takes our analysts to do it. You could get in contact with us about that if you'd like. I don't handle those services. I only do the federally funded stuff, so I do the state level deployments there. But I'd be glad to get you in touch with the services team that they allow to handle money. Basically, the way that works is we don't actually sell an appliance or anything. You are really just paying for analyst time if you opt to do that. People asked us to open that up on that basis for local governments and state governments. And you essentially, we tell you what type of sensor you need to buy. It's usually like a Dell or commodity server that meets certain criteria, and we'll get you an image of our IDS software. We use Suricata as the engine.
Super, thank you. A follow-up question from Brad Bowers. Is do members also automatically become members of the election ISAC, or do you have to apply to that separately?
I can answer that. So with the MS-ISAC, it is open to all state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, as we addressed. With the elections infrastructure, it's actually a little bit more directed specifically to those that are heavily involved in the elections process. Because what we're doing on the election side is really trying to protect voter registration, it's really much more for registrars, elections clerks. On the state side, we work with secretaries of states, board of elections, stuff like that. And we do at times also invite the IT side, of course. So we have an executive side and a technical side on the elections infrastructure ISAC. So if you're not directly involved in the elections process or supporting an elections office from an IT stance, unfortunately, we most likely would not be able to vet you and get you into the program. But there is some cross-functional sharing of information that does happen from both ISACs because they are utilizing some of the same services. So you'll still get a benefit being an MS-ISAC member. If we hear about things on the elections side that could be applicable to the other state and local governments that we talked about, you would still receive the benefits of that information.
Thank you. We do have one off-topic question of people that are enjoying the system that you're using in your room and how the system will follow the speaker. Can you share what you're using?
Yeah, it's so this is really new to us and it's a little freaky.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it sometimes zooms in on your forehead by accident, but it is a really interesting platform. It's actually Cisco WebEx's hardware platform for a connected conference room. So we've only had it for about a month, but I can say that it is actually pretty seamless. And I find it really interesting. It's called the speaker track function. So if you speak for a few seconds, it moves on to you. You can control it yourself though, so that's kind of nice. If we decided it was more personal to have it zoom in on us as we talked, you can kind of zoom out and just view like the whole room if you'd like.
Yeah, the only one I've seen do that is called a meeting owl. That
I've never heard that
little tube that you can set in the middle, and it will track who's talking.
Ah.
So this is the first time I've seen it. Other than that, so
it goes on the table.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
looks like an Alexa, kind of.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
All right, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
About $800. It's pretty cheap.
It actually is. That's actually pretty cheap for a device like that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for addressing that too. Any other questions? Oh.
Yeah, I just want to stress, I know that half the presentation is a little more restricted to the people that we work with on a regular basis, but if you have a question about finding resources for your own type of organization that we don't cover, reach out to me. I might have a contact somewhere that can get better answers than I can about finding it. So there's, like I said earlier, there's a lot out there that you can leverage. It's just a real battle finding it all and getting it into one place so you can analyze it and decide what to use.
Thank you. And if folks have questions for KanREN, feel free to reach out here too. The email address that you can use is info@kanren.net. And we're glad to answer questions around KanREN. We also provide some consortium-wide services for things like DNS security filtering and vulnerability scans and so forth. So we're glad to help on helping you beef those opportunities up within your institution as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will be posting the recording on our YouTube channel. And I want to stress to both Eugene and Greta how grateful we are that you took time to share the information and all the resources that the MS-ISAC will provide for folks. It's surely something that really folks could leverage, and at no cost. I don't know where you could go wrong. So thanks so much for being with us today, and I will make sure to invite you all to our next quarterly threat briefing. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.